All right, welcome to the Lockdown Podcast. We are short a man. That's all good. He's doing a little vacating. Nothing wrong with that. We all need a break once in a while. I wish I could get one, but I don't. So we are here to run back, kind of Raw SmackDown, build the Bash in Berlin. We're still 2 weeks away from that. Still a lot of possibilities for matches. We basically have essentially the main events with Cody versus Kevin and Gunther versus Randy Orton. Those are pretty much already in the books. Um, appears we do have the Liv Morgan, Dominic versus Rhea, and Damian Priest. But obviously, that's only 3 matches. I would say there's going to be at least another 4 matches to that card. So those could be anywhere from tag teams. We still have, intercontinental stuff. We still have United States Championship stuff. So, so anything can happen again. We have 2 weeks. So we'll just kind of rough shot through Raw and SmackDown and just kind of get to our opinions, our thoughts. So we continue on Monday, which seems to be the only essential entertainment to Raw out, because really the championship seems to be secondary. I feel like the championships on both brands are honestly getting very secondary compared to other storylines. So we continue to have, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest basically, you know, given a lot of guff as far as the Liv Morgan Dominic story goes. So like, what do you think as far as like how do you think the whole this Dominic and Liv and the whole thing, how do you think that's going from like a fan's perspective on like the storyline?
I think it's gonna be a slow burn. They're really gonna like draw out this interaction with the Terror Twins and Judgment Day. It's not gonna get any close to being done until we get a rematch between Liv and Rhea and Dominic and Balor. When we get those matches, I think we can then start to see everyone kind of go their separate ways. I think for all intents and purposes, we've got a couple of months, maybe 6 to 8 weeks worth of story from Judgment Day versus Terror Twins. Uh, it's not it's not the most entertaining, but it is one of the interesting stories that is going on with Raw right now. Outside of the White Six, I think this. Oh, you got to edit that. um, I think this is one of the more interesting stories, as opposed to anything like with Chad Gable or the tag team situation. So Terror Twins versus Judgment Day, White Six interaction, then the upcoming Gunther and Randy match is the most interesting out of all of them. I think for me, the most entertaining would probably be Randy versus Gunther.
Yeah, that's the thing is that Judgment Day seems to be basically pretty much filling the show with every bit of drama from every perspective. Because, like you said, there's more to this story than just Rhea and Damien and Liv Morgan and Dominic. Because obviously now we have basically the whole Judgment Day just dipping out. Like
Right.
everybody basically acknowledged that Liv did more for the team than Rhea did, which is honestly not even up for debate. She really has. It was all about Rhea. Rhea was the self-proclaimed title, the leader. Not and then when she was gone, Rhea, Damien was essentially the certified leader when they've said from the get that there was no leaders, but obviously we obviously knew that. It wasn't really that much to not see. I mean, Rhea basically ran the show. She left. Damian ran the show. You know, he was the one forking out orders. He got the title, and now neither of them have titles. And now the Judgment Day with Liv Morgan added. Now you have JD and Finn with the tag titles. You have Liv Morgan with the women's championship. So I feel like this Judgment Day 3.0 seems to be hitting a better stride than the previous, but you know, only time will tell. Like I said, we essentially have this match set for Bash in Berlin. But obviously there's 2 weeks to get to anything new. So we'll move along. So the whole New Day Odyssey Jones thing seemed to be a little bit confusion on Xavier Woods' end because he didn't really know anything. Obviously, you know, Odyssey has this basically just a squash match with some Vincent whiny guy. I mean, it's one of those, you know, not even a jobber. He's just a place to basically just to get beat up.
Enhancement talent.
Yeah, that's the word. And so I think now Xavier Woods seems to be leaning a little more towards Odyssey Jones. And Odyssey Jones, you know, unbeknownst to most, is honestly he's gotten the approval of Big E. Like Big E basically gave him, you know, the 2 thumbs up, you know, the proverbial salute, you know, and I think Odyssey Jones will definitely be I think he will become part of the New Day. I don't think he will be independent. If it's all 3 of them, they're gonna be the New Day. If it's him individually, he'd be Odyssey Jones. But you know, I like where this is going. Odyssey Jones is a freaking beast. He's bigger than Big E. He's stronger than Big E. He's faster than Big E. You know, and he's a very, very young talent. You know, he's barely been out of, you know, he's let's say 3 years he's been in the business, right? As far as NXT to main roster, you know, and so he's young, he's agile, he's strong as hell. So we'll definitely, you know, keep an eye for that in the future. So now that we've essentially had Chad Gable basically leave the Alpha Academy and basically form his own group called American Made, um, you know, I'm not completely sold as far as the Creeds and Chad Gable. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, honestly, the Creed brothers were pretty much kind of floating around with Ivy Nile on the main roster, so I feel like this is probably the best case scenario for their career at this juncture. Um, they definitely fit the bill, being you know actual wrestlers with actual records, with actual you know top of the list on these you know certain statistics in actual wrestling. So I feel like it is a great fit. Um, Now, the fact that they still call Maxine Dupree, Tozawa, and Otis Alpha Academy, I feel like they need a name change. But what would they call them?
You know, I like Alpha Academy for them because it just works. You did them dirty and they left you and they took or kept the name because you mistreated them so poorly. Um, you know, when he formed Alpha Academy with Otis, um, yeah, it eventually he was gonna make this like chase you type, you know, wrestling school slash click. Uh and it just didn't work out in that way because Chad became so much more of a heel. Um yeah, I don't think I would like change their name. I would definitely keep using it just to have it
Basically
as like
keep
a
the
rib.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
just
there's
as a
really
rib
nothing
to Chad because there's nothing
there's
there.
nothing left for them to be named anyways. And
Right.
honestly, actually Chad Gale basically said you can take the name. And
Right.
so, he lost it / got it taken. I really do like heel Chad Gable. I think Chad
Yeah.
Gable more than most, people on the main roster, he had to go through an exuberant amount of character changes, stupid gimmicks. I mean, he's a workhorse. Like
Yeah.
let's be real. I mean, he's gone through, he started with what was it? Jason Jordan, not Jason, was it Jason Jordan?
Yep. It was Jason Jordan.
So, and they were a
Yeah.
tag team and then that dissipated, and then he was kind of left in the wings and then he got listed as Shorty G via
Oh
Baron
yeah.
Corbin.
Yep.
And he ran with that and then he kind of came back as Chad Gable and then he started Alpha Academy, which kind of pushed him back up, from the proverbial bottom of the freaking, you know, and so I think this heel change is only going to benefit him in the long run. I think the Creed
Yeah.
brothers are amazing talent. I think,
Yeah.
we're
Definitely.
definitely, it's one of the groups where I don't know, you definitely see the potential, right?
Right.
Because the Creed brothers succeeded quite a bit in NXT
Hmm.
and I see them, tag team champions sooner rather than later. You know, the only messed up part is it's like the tag team division Raw SmackDown is very deep. Um so it's going to have to be we're going to have to get to the point where we're going to have, another, tag team gauntlet match to determine number 1 contenders.
Right.
I feel like, some of the teams are getting lost in the shuffle, which is unfortunate. But so we'll move on to the women's number 1 contender, women's tag team number 1 contender match, which Isla Dawn and Alba Fire basically interrupted, no contest, which basically leads me to believe this will be another match. We'll call it a triple threat tag match for those. I wouldn't honestly say this is enough premise to be at Bash in Berlin. I wouldn't disagree if it was. It's definitely a filler match. I feel like women's tag division seems to be more filler.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
doesn't doesn't have the star power that, even the women's championship belts are pretty kind of I mean,
I
they
think they're
really
gonna
need
do something special with Naya. I really do. I mean, yeah,
oh,
she's
100%.
yeah. I think the Tiffany Stratton build for Naya, but we can talk about that during SmackDown. But this match, I have to agree with you. It is filler. It is getting 6 women's wrestlers in the ring on TV telling a story. Do I think it means something? Not really. I think basically you're right. I mean, it is a filler. It's filler. It's subpar. There's got to be some meat to a story to keep you engaged instead of just seeing these athletes just go at it and try to try to tell a story. There's got to be a little bit of drama because that's what we're used to. You know, for pro wrestling on TV is like, where's the drama? Yeah, give me
And
something.
well, and it's like we've talked before about the fact that, Shayna Baszler needs to be a champion, and if it has
Yes.
to be a tag team champion, so be it.
Ah,
Because if obviously, like I said, it sucks that she's underutilized. She's an actual wrestling MMA talent
yeah.
that and it's like the flip side is they basically use Ronda Rousey's star power to interject her into WWE, but yet Shayna Baszler was essentially a replica.
You know,
Same everything,
you know what? It's not a hot take, but I think it's a well-known fact that Shayna Baszler is much more polished and established and serious about professional wrestling than Ronda Rousey ever was. And I think um Rhonda giving her that star rub on her way out was probably one of the better things that Rhonda did in her WWE run. Um, Shayna, yes, should 100% be a singles champion. There's no question. Uh, you know, anybody can get it from Shayna Baszler. She can put you over. She can make you look miserable. She really is
Well, and she's a great
a really
heel.
great talent. Yeah, and she's the heel persona does fit her very well. But
Yeah,
for her not getting a championship run is just as horrible as like a Sheldon Benjamin or an R Truth not getting a world championship run. I'll
yeah,
say it.
it's
Shayna Baszler is probably number one on my list. I mean,
well,
as much
it's
as I
like you
like,
said,
yeah,
it's the polishedness, it's the brutality,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
it's and I think, yeah, it's unfortunate that, we seem to be in this era of more about popular opinion than
Mhm.
just actual premise in the ring,
Right.
you
And,
know?
it's a shame that, you know, someone of her caliber and her experience in the ring that she gets overlooked, and I think more so because of her age. But Damian Priest is like 40-ish, or if not 40, and he gets a world championship run. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and she came up through
yeah,
NXT too, so, like,
yeah.
she's been in the professional wrestling business, like, obviously, like, World Wrestling Entertainment or whatever. She's been in it for a while versus Ronda Rousey that just got the push right in, and Ronda Rousey's moveset was very basic. It was
And
it
there's
it was
nothing
very
there's nothing
cliche.
wrong with being basic, but Rhonda is and was extremely stiff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It was
yeah.
she was just
Yeah,
she was stiff, and
there
she,
there wasn't fluency in her
right.
wrestling
It
moves.
was similar to the complaint that I have about Jade Cargill and how about Jade, appearing to be stiff, not working stiff, but just stiff.
Yeah,
She's not as fluid. Um, but the difference between Jade and Rhonda is that Jade wants this and Jade
yeah.
is working hard at it. And there's gonna,
She brought
yeah,
the star power, which is obviously what we want,
right.
but the
It is.
problem is that it's tough because they've made other talent that came back or came to WWE, essentially made them roll through NXT first, and I
Right.
think that would have done, and that's the thing is the problem is that you have star power, so, like, you just get to skip the line, right? But the
Right.
problem is that we haven't got any, like, consistent, like you said, she's not stiff, but she's stiff.
Right.
And
Yep.
so, versus let's call, like Shawn Spears is back in NXT, right? You
Mhm.
have Ethan Page in NXT. You have multiple talents that have basically got signed back with WWE, but they went down and worked their way up. I feel
Yeah.
like honestly, Jade Cargill could have used, let's call it 6 months in NXT, and then let's just say we never knew when if she's ever gonna get called to the main roster. We could have played that storyline, and then all
They
of a sudden,
could
poof, she
they could
appeared.
have really 100% did the same thing that they did with Karrion Cross when booking Jade Cargill, and then,
Mhm.
we can definitely move on. Which was bring her in, present her as a star, and say, like, I came to win a championship just to show you who y'all dealing with. Strap the title on her, but give her a lot of in-ring work so people can
Yeah,
get familiar with her, and just have her like do a short, like you said, 6 to 9 month run, make her virtually, if not undefeated,
right.
so she still keeps
It
that
would have
same
been better for
AEW
story
run.
build.
Yep. And then, have her do all of those big things,
Right.
like maybe even like have her come up from time to time and like show like, yeah, I'm the champ down there. I just wanted to just show y'all what y'all waiting for, up here. And then do the same booking, no, she gets up here. But I think that would have given her um that would have given her some more training,
Yeah.
and so she doesn't appear to be as stiff as she is.
Yeah.
It's not the saying that she's a stiff worker, it's just that she doesn't appear as comfortable in
Well,
the
it's because
ring
it's there's
as
no
yeah.
fluency between move sets,
Yes, yep.
and I
It's
think
like
that's
yeah.
that's where you have, like, we'll get on after this little second here, but, like, so, I mean, you see how fluent Bianca Belair is in the ring, right?
Right. Yep.
She's just very smooth in between moves and everything else, and I think Jade needs some polishing, right?
Yeah.
She's a lump of coal right now when we
Mhm.
need to, like, scrap her down before we view
And
her
it's
as a
not
diamond.
even that, it's like, she's probably a diamond in the a rough diamond that needs to be polished up, and that polishing definitely will come in from more in-ring work. And it's not to say that she's not getting it or not doing it, it's just to say, like, her presentation, um, can still improve, and she is putting in the work because, we all have bumps, we all have problems, but it goes to a bigger statement about getting the women in ring time to
Yeah.
work on their craft. And if you're not going to do that, don't give us a kind of like this, triple threat tag team dumpster fire with a lot of things going on. We've got a reformed damage control with EO and Kyrie. We've got, what are they calling themselves? Pure Fusion Collective, PLC or whatever have you. And then you have like with the Unholy Union with that Alba Fire chick and whatever else the other one's name is.
I would,
And then, with Blair Davenport, now it's like, 3-3-2, so
well, but you also have Naomi factored in, so it's like,
yeah, I
so it's but,
yeah,
let's put a pin
yeah,
in that. I mean, we
yep.
could literally just talk about the
Yep.
shoddiness of the women's division in wrestling, but, so, obviously, so we have Randy Orton basically went back to basically collect his due essentially because obviously he was, kind of screwed at King of the Ring. Obviously now we have this, we have the Gunther versus Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. Um, and Gunther continues to honestly perfect being a heel. I really think that he's the asshole y'all love to like or love to hate because
Mhm.
and he finally he finally said enough about Randy Orton's family to basically get what we all know is the out of nowhere RKO. Um, so so this is going to be an interesting match, or we essentially have 2 weeks. So I mean, there's a lot that could go into this. We could get a stipulation for all intents purposes. Who knows? Um, so we continue to have this whole CM Punk and Drew McIntyre thing, which it's running its course.
It's
And
ran its course.
you know, and the downside is that this is the stupidest part about the whole thing, right? Is that CM Punk beats the crap out of Drew McIntyre, but still never takes the bracelet.
Yeah, you know what? I
So and
ridiculous.
obviously we all know where we sit versus our other group member who is on the nostalgic CM
He
Punk
is
thing.
definitely, pro CM Punk. I think what would have made it better. Now, I didn't watch the segment, but I think what have could have made it what would have or could have or should have made it better is, CM Punk beating him with the belt, like talking smack to him, and Drew McIntyre responding to it while he's getting beat. It's like, give me my bracelet. It's like, you can't have it. And he keeps hitting him for it.
Dude, what
Something
about
along,
so
you know,
mini pipe dream or mini like what if they for some odd reason this develops into a strap match
I think
at
it
Bash in
is.
Berlin?
I
Like
think it is.
I haven't seen anything, but again, we have 2 weeks. So I think a strap match would be fan freaking tastic. So we'll move on. We can touch back on it a little bit here, but so Big Bronson Reed continues to run roughshod on everybody, on anybody that gets in his way. It doesn't matter if it's Seth freaking Rollins, The Miz, or just to put the icing on the cake, R-Truth.
Oh
He's
God,
running
they do my
roughshod.
boy
You
dirty.
gotta give respect where respect is due, because
Yeah,
guess what? You want to make a name, you
yeah,
put someone to
yeah.
shame. That's what it is.
Yeah. You know what?
So,
I respect our truth because he took them big splashes. And after the first one, I'd have been like, you know what? No, absolutely
dude,
not.
he's
No, you're
old,
not getting
man.
your big butt up there and jumping on me again. No, absolutely not.
I- he's a freaking trooper, man. Our truth, honestly, man. I cannot
Yeah.
wait till he like goes off TV and starts working in back and just starts like laying the foundation for these nonsensical storylines.
You
Because I don't
know,
think he's going anywhere. He's
yeah,
gonna he's gonna he's he's gonna
yeah.
so
He's gonna leave the company when the company leaves. You know, when the company is done,
right.
he's done. So
Oh my god, like
here's
he's gonna be
here's
gray.
the
He's gonna be gray bearded and bald by the time he leaves.
yeah. You know what? I them booking Bronson Reed to just be this, really menacing, unstoppable powerhouse.
Yeah.
I like that booking for him. I don't like it that it became, I don't like it that it happened to our truth because, we all feel a certain way about our truth that's really positive. Should it happen to Miz? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Go 100%. But you know, it happens. It happens, and let's go. The the real villain out of all of this is Adam Pierce. Adam
Well,
Pierce
and
is the actual villain.
and that's the thing. He's allowing these things to happen, and then like, and I think the thing is, but like, Scrap Daddy is doing his job though.
You
Like,
know what?
like
He
but like,
is
it's the fact that you have like all this going on, and you just kind of have him just kind of chilling about it, right? Like, you know, and I think it's good for Bronson Reed 100%, just because like, we a lot of the big guys get overlooked, right? I mean, we're
they
all
do.
about these guys that are, that are basically Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns type of status, but you have these big guys like Otis or Big Bronson Reed, and you have these guys that they're not actually that bad. Like they're actually
You know
pretty
what?
good in the ring, and I think the fact that
Bronson Reed, anyone I look at the WWE kind of in the same in the same energy or same vein as like the NBA or the NFL, right? Um, so anyone that's on TV and in the WWE is good at their craft, right? And
right,
I think finally they're giving Bronson Reed the opportunity to show how devastating he is, how powerful he is. I think that only does well for his stock. Now, unfortunately, for our truth, it keeps him at that level of, you know, basically enhancement talent.
right,
Even though our truth has all the chops and all the skills and all the experience necessary to be the face of the company, because he is unofficially the face of the company. You know what I'm
oh yeah,
saying? Yeah. If you watch WWE programming enough to know that, his theatrics are top tier. He can still move in the ring at an age where performers are slowing down. They're being mindful of the spots and things to take, and to take five of these from a younger, stronger talent. It's still a human body jumping on an unprotected, prone human body, and for
right,
you to to be able to sell that, you
yeah,
know, yeah. So
yeah. So
I hated that it was truth,
yeah.
so
So the final match on Raw, seeing Braun Breaker basically had to basically do a 2 out of 3 falls match with Sami Zayn. Obviously he retains, and I feel like this was just kind of the send off to the whole Sami IC title
mhm,
story.
right.
I think that we're now past that now. Essentially, the way it's looking, we're kind of onto Sami Zayn, being a tag team title champion, which I don't know why they continue to kind of lollygag with the fact that Sammy and Jay beat the champions. And I think it's kind of dumb that it's kind of getting passed on the pipeline that it did happen.
Right.
But it's like again, but there's so many other storylines swirling around right now, and so it's hard to get back to that. But we all know it needs to get back to that eventually.
Yep.
I don't know when. It's one
You
of those
know.
wait and see.
Yep. It's one of those
We,
lulls in all the stories where they need something to happen. Or
and
someone
so
gets hurt.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll roll over to SmackDown. Man, so the show kicks off with the whole Tiffany Stratton basically doing this whole celebration for Nia Jax, everything else, and obviously and then you have Pretty Deadly. That I tell you, man, those two guys are characters in and of themselves. Just like if you just look at the outfits they wear, they're just goofy, they're silly, but you know what? They make us laugh, and maybe that's just the shtick.
Yeah.
Um, so they try to do a little, musical thing for uh Nia Jax. Obviously doesn't work out. Mia Yim comes out of nowhere and basically thwarts off the whole party,
Yep.
which obviously is going to lead towards a Michin Nia Jax match.
Give it to me.
I would say it's either going to happen this Friday or the following, or maybe a DQ into some kind of match at Bash in Berlin. Because again, like we said, we only have 3 book matches right now, so there should be at least another 3 to 4 matches. Again, we'll touch on those as they come in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So now we have. So Carmelo Hayes has been, defeated the last 2 times against Andrade. So this seems to be a good filler feud. Because obviously there's nothing really to it. It's just kind of a matter of young blood and experienced blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like this mini feud. I'm a big Carmelo Hayes guy. I've said that a million times over. I feel like he's just got to run his course.
Yep.
He's got to run through his little storylines, his matches, and get his bumps. And I see him being a secondary title holder in the next year to year and a half.
Yeah, maybe they'll pull it a lot quicker. I mean, he's like you said, he's definitely a good,
he was
good
picked in the
talent.
first round, so I
Yep.
mean, and so I feel like that speaks volumes. So I mean, yeah, I would hope it would be sooner rather than later, but I mean, look how long it took LA Knight. So
Yeah.
in
But LA Knight was like completely over, the moment he showed up. So,
but it's still taken a while for it, and so
yeah.
like really, Carmelo Hayes hasn't gotten that crowd rub yet. And I think he's gonna do something in the near future that's going to get the crowd to be on his side. I mean, you think of what happened with Tiffany Stratton, right? She just slowly got over. LA Knight, got over a little bit quicker, but it still took him time to get anything, any opportunities. So, it's a wait and see, right? Wait and see. And
Mhm.
we'll obviously keep our eyes peeled on that. So we have Blair Davenport beating Naomi, which again just seems like another filler match. Really wasn't like
It can set up, that 3-on-3 or trios match with Bianca and Jade and Naomi versus, Blair and the Unholy Alliance or whatever they're calling themselves. I
Unholy
don't.
Union.
Yeah, that Unholy Union. So yeah,
It's
they've
it's it's
yeah.
good it's good filler, honestly. Like I really feel like it's what's crazy is that honestly the women's division now really isn't much without Sasha Banks, without Charlotte Flair, without Becky Lynch. We're hanging on. We're literally hanging by a straw with Bailey.
You
We're
know,
at this
I
we're at the point where it's like we're moving to a new
Yeah.
generation of women superstars. So we're just kind of in purgatory right now of
You know,
complacency.
I think this is fine because we can see these new up and coming superstars, and they're going to take their L's just as much as they're going to get their
Right.
wins. So I just for the women's division, um, you know, there are a lot of deserving pushes. We've already spoken about Shayna Baszler, you know, getting that, you know, push. I think Michin could eventually be a single champion. And I look at my baseline is Naomi. Naomi and her move set doesn't it doesn't wow me, but I like seeing her in the ring. Um,
Right.
but it's you know it just doesn't it doesn't she her character doesn't do it for me, but I enjoy seeing her in the ring, especially when she's not a heel. When she's a face, I you know give you know
I mean,
line her up all
she
day.
can give me the rear view anytime.
Yep, you know, yes, yep. But with that said, I think her coming back does bring a level of experience that these younger performers would need when they're on TV.
Right.
So it's basically like having a ring general for each one of these matches because eventually it'll be a Blair Davenport versus a Valkyrie or whatever her name
Yeah.
is. You know, having these telling these stories, and it's that on TV, in the ring, live events that give them the confidence and the
Well,
experience necessary
and
to do that.
they're learning the main roster do's and don'ts. They're
Right,
learning to feed off the energy because obviously NXT really, they're starting to go on the road now, but in a very small dose. And so like basically they're really their staple PLEs are still essentially in the performance center. So like
right, right,
it is a whole different monster being in front of 300 400 people versus 12 to 15,000 on an average night. And so it's a different energy, it's a different performance, it's a different, like, the theatrics are different. You're feeding off of the crowd. You're not feeding off of 400 people, all right? You're just doing what your job was in
yep,
the match. You're very kind of to the point with your matches because that's just how it is. You don't have that crowd involvement yet. And yes, NXT does have high energy, and I think it's amazing the longevity of the fan base in Florida. I think it's cool. It's just when you get to the main roster, it is a whole different monster. I'm
yep,
sorry.
you know,
Very very few get it out the gate, and
yeah,
one of those being freaking Braun Breaker. Okay, like
yeah. I mean, just the
he's like a
way,
feed me
yeah,
more. He's like feed me
yeah.
more. He's
You
basically
know
like
what?
freaking Ryback, dude.
You know what? He's an exception. A lot of talent comes up through NXT that don't get that same type of um, backstage push and advice. Second generation performer, you know, he's young, he has a specific look, he definitely has made a connection with a very core and key audience within the WWE universe. So yeah, he's an exception. I think with him being that exception, you know, you've got guys like Carmelo Hayes, you've got talent like Blair Davenport, who is an exceptional woman's performer, an exceptional performer. Period. You know,
Um,
she was trained by one of the most unsigned talents, in Will Osprey, and even had one incredible match with him. It was an intergender match with Will Osprey. So she can hold her own when given the opportunity. But it is that WWE cookbook and that WWE machine that kind of sets the tones for each one of these characters, because if you were to just let them go unchecked, they might explode uh,
well, and
relatively
you
quickly,
you have to
then
have a certain
phase.
degree, yeah.
Yeah,
You have
phase
to have
out.
a you have to have a certain degree of commitment to the business too. I mean, and I think it's, when you make it to the main roster, you best be still doing what you do. Like,
Right.
and I think that's the upside and downside of certain wrestlers because like, they go from being top tier in NXT to being like enhancement, clean the locker room type of people, and that's just how it goes. But
You
if you
know,
but if you but if you can play through the L's, the shoddy gimmicks, you can do something in WWE. I mean, you think of honestly like where John Cena started, right? Where Randy Orton started. Hell, like I mean, even AJ Styles worked through multiple businesses before he got here. So
you
like,
know what? And then AJ Styles is like one of the handful of exceptions that, you know, was in WWE as enhancement talent and then went on to learn the craft, learn the business, refine themselves over and over again, and then gets brought back, after what some are saying like is an incredible run in New Japan. And for him to like even reinvent himself here,
yeah.
in the WWE.
I
Uh,
just don't know when they're
yeah.
when they're supposed to have him retire because like he's
You
like
know what?
obviously he's
So,
kind of been off TV for a minute, and so it's
you
kind of
know,
like what are they? What's I
whatevs.
mean,
If
obviously
he
his
if he
comeback's gonna be
shows back
dramatic,
up,
but
if he shows back up, he shows back up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's I
yeah,
mean, at this particular point, um, we can talk about pipe dreams, but you know, him being off TV means someone newer and younger in the business can get their shine.
mhm,
Because if you have AJ Styles, you advertise AJ Styles and you put AJ Styles on TV. Period.
yeah,
Someone like Andrade, you put him on TV. He's good. He's very good in the ring.
yeah,
I still think there is a miss when it comes to a lot of the Latino performers because what people I think they're clamoring for either another Rey Mysterio or they're clamoring for another Eddie Guerrero. And one is in the twilight, one has passed away. And the only thing that they're getting the newer luchadors and the newer styles of lucha libre. It's just not the same. So I think it's changing the mindset of what people are looking for in their performers. And the WWE again, it's their cookbook. It's one of many tried and true ways that they keep the audience engaged, by not giving the immediate push, the immediate rocket. And it's only when it's like an exceptional talent that they can invest in that happens. Look at Austin Theory. He's an exceptional performer at his age to be in the WWE, and he damn near lost his job. Because he was missing a lot of things, a lot of yeah, it just wasn't working. So they sent him back down to NXT. They repackaged him, so to speak, and now he came back up. He fumbled a little bit or with the booking, but
yeah. It's
now he's kind of like, all right,
I,
he's in a place where it fits for him and his character for now.
yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of it too is that like sometimes you just have to work through the process because honestly, I think Andrade's gimmick, honestly, he should be in the realm of championships right now.
Oh yeah,
Now,
definitely,
the problem
definitely.
that we face right now with our current champions is that they're in solidified long-term storylines. And
Right.
so right now, it's unless so if Randy Orton wins, right? Let's the big if because I really think he's going to lose. But like if he wins, what does Gunther do, right? And if Gunther
Mm,
wins, we all know what Gunther's going to do. But then what does Randy do? And so we're seem to be on this top like 5 to 10 wrestlers between both shows that are even remotely going to be involved in championship aspirations right now. But
Mm.
we also have a lot of talent that could easily and should get secondary title reigns, right? I
Right.
feel like we need to kind of go back to, let's call it 2010, 2015, when you had the titles bounce around a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
because that's like John Cena has, the 16 title reigns, but honestly, they were like in total that's actually really not that long of a run, right?
Right.
And so, back then it was kind of a bounce back and forth. That's why the numbers are higher. Now, Gunther's been a champion 75% of his main roster call up. Like, that's insane. Like, that's legitimately mind blowing that 75% of the time that Gunther's been on the main roster, he has
Yep.
been a champion.
And
Like, just
that to me is the hallmark of where they see the longevity
oh,
of a
100%.
of a character. I mean, you can look at his transformation from Walter to Gunther, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a completely different person. Both physically and character wise, he's leaning more and more into those old school heels in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. He's outstanding in that. And his I think, if I remember correctly, I did hear him say he does not have a problem with in-ring stamina, meaning that he can go. And
Well, I mean, if you
He's just
look
he's
back
just
at
he's just proven it. I mean, he's tall, he has a specific look. I mean,
and it's
you
like the thing is
know
he's still agile even though he's a big man. And
right,
like the fact that he has by far the best chop in the business forever. Okay.
right.
Like as of now, he has the best chest slap anybody. He puts Ric Flair to like kindergarten in chest slapping. Okay. Like,
He's
and
definitely good
you
at that.
like if you like I was saying about the Ilya Dragunov match, like when you go watch it, like just freaking insane. Just
Right.
insane. Like I don't know how he makes the chop, but I don't know. Maybe he's got
Yeah.
metal freaking bars in his hand. Who knows? But like I digress. So we'll go back, we'll roll back to SmackDown here. But so Kevin Owens defeats Grayson Waller in obviously a match that really doesn't have much honestly to it. It was just a segue for, Cody to come out and the whole chair thing, and then Kevin Owens holds the title for a second and then hands it back to him. And again, this is essentially secondary on SmackDown. That's why it's not even the last topic we're talking about. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that the journey was better than the destination with Cody Rhodes. I think we're all kind of sick of Cody Rhodes.
You
I
know,
hate this, not in the sense of Cody Rhodes like as a person, as a wrestler. It's just that him as champion right now, it's not doing it for me anymore.
yeah, I
Like, we had his run, and I just feel like unless, you know, because it's like if he loses it, is there a point in him getting it back? You know what I'm saying? Like
I
most
yeah,
most rest
I don't
most
see
wrestlers,
him
it's like,
needing it back
yeah,
right
and so
now.
it's like, but then it's like, what do you do with Cody Rhodes after that? You know what I'm saying?
You know,
His whole thing is him coming back to WWE to get that championship his dad never won. But now we've gotten that, and so really there's nothing left. Okay? Cody has nothing left on honestly, I feel like he has nothing left to offer in WWE. You
so
know,
I would not be surprised that Cody is not here for the long term. Like I would say within 3 years, Cody is gone.
oh,
He's
100%,
moved on.
100%.
He's either moved on to Hollywood or maybe he goes back to the company he was previously at. Um, but a bigger thought theory is I wonder if his current run as champion is the way it's being booked because The Rock couldn't get his match that he wanted with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's punishment. We're giving you these stagnant, stale matches um because of that. It's like, hey man, you know,
We gave
this
you the
is
title to say we gave you the title, and
right.
now because it was the crowd, it was the fans that wanted what, and then the fans actually for once got what they wanted.
Yep.
Problem is that no one wants it anymore though. Like
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was so much hype to getting there
yeah.
that now that he's there, it does nothing for anybody.
Right.
And
And
it's
yeah.
and so it's
It-
like, and again, like we said, there's bigger storylines in play on SmackDown. So Street Profits obviously defeat DIY, to be the number one contenders for the tag team titles. I don't see the tag titles going off the bloodline anytime soon,
yeah.
unfortunately, and I think that's just how it's gonna be. I think Jacob Fatu faking this freaking ankle injury is absolute dog shit.
You
I
know,
just
I
he needs
I
like
yeah, I like it in the sense of it makes him look
like
unstoppable.
he's just brute
Yep,
force.
he's just
Broken ankle
larger
doesn't do
than
nothing for
life.
me.
Yep, you know what? On a broken ankle, I love my tribal chief, and you're not my tribal chief. You know what I'm saying? I think it just bodes well, and yeah, I think that works really well. I think this whole like end to SmackDown with Roman at least putting on the Ulafala, and then getting it taken off of him and having these others stand over him.
Right.
It slowly starts the burn to basically putting the band back together. Roman
Well,
has got
and
Roman's,
yeah.
and I think
Well, it's that the thing is that Roman's the draw. Like
yeah, he
like
is.
like it or lump it, honestly, from a fan's perspective versus, the legitimacy of the story and the wins and everything is that Roman Reigns is the guy. Okay? He basically I would go to say that he is the heel John Cena never was.
Yeah,
Because he has essentially put the company on his back. He don't have to show up all the time, but when he shows up, people lose their mind, right? And he's
yeah,
like, I
I
mean, because he's taken over. He's main event and rest like the last like what 5 WrestleManias, 4 WrestleManias, something like that.
and
He's
he's
main
probably got a
event like
couple more to
SummerSlams.
main
I
event.
mean, his
So
resume, he could quit tomorrow and he would be in the Hall of Fame. Like
yeah, he's yeah,
that's where he's been
definitely.
at. That's where the level that he is at. And I really think, like I said, he's the John Cena heel.
You know, the thing about um his booking, I think, well, I believe and I remember reading that you know when they started this journey with Roman Reigns, it was to make him the ultimate babyface because they couldn't get him over by pushing him as a babyface. And it's a similar path that, The Rock took. The Rock was in the Nation of Domination. He was just, couldn't get over as a face. Initially, he joined the Nation of Domination, was a heel. He got injured and in one of the stories that he's told is like, let me come back my way and let me do this my way. And that's when we got, the Brahma Bull, People's Champ, you know, prototype for Ricky Stark's entire career. Um, so it's the same thing. It's like they couldn't push him. He disappears during the pandemic because he wasn't getting sick because lo and behold, he had leukemia and we didn't know, and
Right.
he shows back up and it's like, now now he's a heel. When in reality he's always been the anti-hero, and
Right.
I think starting to clearly define what the narrative is when speaking about Roman Reigns' career. He's kind of always been the anti-hero. In the sense of I'm gonna do some bad to do some good. Um, you know,
You hate to love him and you love to hate him.
right. Not in the same way that, Deadpool is
Right.
an anti-hero, but in a more so of kind of a Punisher
Right.
sort of way in the sense of
And
I'm going to do some
it's
bad, but I'm doing
yeah.
I'm doing good at the same time. And by me corralling my family around me and keeping them in check, I keep them employed. Jimmy was having really bad addiction issues. Keeping him around me, keeping him in the bloodline, he stays employed. His wife stays employed. His wife takes off. It's like, all right, we got to let this calm down. There's an opportunity for your wife to get back. Let me make a call or something like that, but you got to stay with me. You know what I'm saying? Or, with Jay, it's like, you know what? I got to keep you close. That's how I'm gonna protect you. So I'm gonna throw these rules on top of you. It's some people would say it's changing the narrative, and I would agree. But it's also trying to get a broader, more accurate picture of his character growth and development. When we look back on these conversations years from now, we can say like, oh, there was this element and this thing. Can we say this, can we say that? Oh yeah, we can say that Roman basically was an anti-hero. He showed up as an anti-hero with Seth Rollins and the former Dean Ambrose. So I like this. Wrestling Days mentioned it uh, on one of his streams that him getting the band back together, and I'm paraphrasing, is just as interesting as him coming back in September. You know,
Mhm.
there's rumors of him coming back in September. This angle was done to write him off TV for whatever have you, for whatever reasons. So we've got to have that story, or it'll seem incomplete. You know what I'm saying? We got to have him, reunite with Paul Heyman. We got to have him like starting these conversations with Jimmy, with Jay, with mm, Hikuleu, if that's what it's going to be, or Zilla Fatu, if that's what it's going to be, or maybe even Sami Zayn, if that's what it's going to be. We gotta see these things because it's been so theatrical, so cinematic, with the storytelling, and they've had so many layers for so long. Anything less than seeing how the band gets back together and what they're going to do, um, yeah, is a let. We talk about the lulls in stories. This is kind of like, if we don't see this, that'll be a real letdown and a lull in the story. Like it'll seem incomplete because we don't know what those conversations were.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got to see what's next. And I do want to see the bloodline actually grow. I want to see Tangaloa get his act together, whatever they're going to do with him. And I do want to see Hikuleu join uh, Solo's bloodline. I do. I want to see all of Haku's kids with Solo. Yeah. And I want to see
Yeah,
Brock
it's I mean,
Lesnar and
and that's
Roman
the thing
Reigns.
is that the bloodline is deep, but the problem is that Roman doesn't technically need a bloodline, right? He just needs a lot of people that hate the other people, right? That
Right.
you have Jimmy supposedly coming back. As much as I would honestly want Sammy and Jay to join the fray, I feel like they have a lot going on their side.
Yeah.
Um, as far as on Raw. And so but there's been multiple signings on, that really haven't been, advertised. And I feel like, if Solo and Roman do go head to head at Bash in Berlin, we are going to see the fallout and the introduction to multiple bloodline members. It's because there are multiple signed, they just
Right.
haven't been released to TV yet, and I don't think Solo's bloodline's getting any bigger without someone leaving, right? Because
Yeah,
I really don't think that
you
where
know
he's
it.
at now is good.
It could get bigger. Matter of fact, I want it to get bigger. I want so
I mean, but who needs a
idealistically,
six-person faction though? I mean, we don't
you
need
know,
six-person factions. I mean,
yes, we
shoot.
do. Yes, we do. I
Well,
mean, yeah. I mean, you know what? Yeah, we do. Because when the bloodline is over, God is not going to be there, and God is probably going to reunite with Balor and with the Good Brothers, and we're gonna get the WWE's Bullet Club. If I don't get the WWE's Bullet Club, I'm not gonna not watch the program, but I'm gonna be very disappointed in Triple H's creative abilities. I
yeah,
know it's a team effort, but they've got to keep who they've signed together long enough to get that OG, to get the WWE's Bullet Club. And that's that's why I'm sticking around, you know,
right.
and
And I think
paying,
that we are
yeah.
enamored by the possibilities. And that is the WWE mantra, right? Because we don't know, like, I mean, they really haven't even announced essentially, a Solo versus Roman match at all right now. They don't have that
Yeah.
anything in the books. We have the hypothetical should be a
Mhm.
match situation, in play right now.
Right.
But again, we do have 2 weeks, so that's about 15 minutes of storytelling between those two between 2 weeks. But we obviously continue to see Roman get smashed. So it's
Well, this
only a
is like
matter
the
of time.
first time that he's gotten,
Yeah.
since he's
And
returned and since some WrestleMania, that he's been on the losing effort of
right.
any type of story. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
It's
So, and
it's yeah,
yeah,
it is adds another layer. It really does because
yeah,
it's you have Roman on the reverse, of where he was and now where he's at. They're literally like other way.
yeah,
And so I
yeah.
think, it's only a matter of time before we get more members or not even members, but just people to join Roman in the fight against the bloodline.
Right.
Like
And
it's like I
yeah,
said, I don't think it even has to be bloodline people in its entirety, right? I think the majority will be. Obviously, Jimmy's gonna come back. Jimmy doesn't have anything but Roman Reigns, so Jimmy's gonna join back up. Now we still have those signed but not storylined in yet bloodline members. So I mean, we could easily see, because obviously War Games is the end of I think October, November.
hmm,
And so that gives us plenty of time to develop and to build
right,
a War Games match. There's gonna be a bloodline War Games match. That's just fact. That's just literally how what we're watching now. It's a culmination that's gonna happen. It's no different than the fact that we already know that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre will be at Bad Blood and Hell in a Cell. Like,
mhm,
there's some things in WWE wrestling that are just so damn obvious that we know we're gonna get it. Sometimes we know when we're gonna get it, but either way, we're gonna get it, right?
right.
Like it might not be in our realm because obviously we're entitled and we want what we want when we want it. But like, I it's such a great storyline though. I mean, really, the bloodline is essentially stolen the storyline for the last 5 years essentially.
Yeah, it's
And
highly entertaining.
you have that on one side, and then you have essentially the Judgment Day on the flip side.
You
Like,
know,
I mean,
I
Edge started that thing with, it was first him, and then he had Damien, and then or was it he had Rhea then Damien.
yeah.
And so
And
like it's
yeah, I just said the bloodline is entertaining, and it's entertaining from some. It's generally intriguing to see all these layers and dynamics that are happening, right? So on the flip side, Judgment Day pales in comparison. The only thing that is on the level of Bloodline is the Wyatt Six, Bray Wyatt's legacy stories. those are the only two that are like worthy of like a lot of engagement and a lot of attention. Everything else is, second tier. It really is. And I don't, I wonder what people are going to do when this whole bloodline saga is over,
Yeah,
because
it's
eventually, these characters that we have now, some of them will move on, Roman
I well,
Reigns,
and
Jay
I
and
think if the
Jimmy. Yeah.
bloodline ends, I think that's just gonna be a lot of individuals wrestling as they are.
Right.
Think of how long the Shield went on, and they all dissipated and all had great careers, right?
Right.
And you have, multiple factions, that just they were around for a little while. Even think the Hardy Boys, right? Hardy Boys like eventually dissipated, and Jeff was doing his own thing with like Bray Wyatt, or Matt was doing his stuff with Bray Wyatt, and so I think honestly that the people in these stories, the Judgment Day, the Bloodline, they eventually, when the storylines dissipate, they are still going to all be around individually, at least the
Right.
majority of them.
Right.
And then like you said, honestly, I would love to see God freaking as tag teams and just be you know what I'm saying, like just run it, because I think even just those two from the history they have, just in the business in its entirety, are going to attract more than just WWE fans, right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of times, like with the Bloodline in general, like everybody individually was very successful, with the exception of really Solo. Solo really hasn't. He hasn't really done much. Realistically, the rest of the Bloodline has done more than Solo.
Yeah. Everybody.
You
Everybody.
know, and
Everybody.
essentially,
He's like, yeah.
and the funny thing is that they mentioned Solo as a former North American Championship, but that match actually got debunked, and he actually never won a title. So technically, Solo hasn't done anything besides demand acknowledgement for
Right.
a record that doesn't hold any titles.
Yeah.
Versus,
And
I
it,
would acknowledge the Bloodline, but not Solo, right? Like
right.
I acknowledge that Jacob Fatu is a monster. He's
Yes.
accomplished
He is.
things
He's.
outside of WWE.
Yep. He is
Tamatonga,
definitely.
Tongaloa. Those
Yep.
guys have accomplished. I will acknowledge that, but I
Yeah.
will not acknowledge Solo, who's done jack shit. But wear gloves, look like a cheap knockoff. The Rock. If you look at his gimmick and you put him side by side with the turtleneck and the chains and shit, that's the Rock 2.0. So that
Yeah.
leads me to believe
If
that
they're if they're
The Rock
not,
is in the foreground. I
yeah,
think honestly, I
yeah,
still
they're
believe wholeheartedly The
foreshadowing The
Rock
Rock.
is in the
Yeah.
background of
Yep,
all
they're
of this.
definitely foreshadowing The Rock. Yep,
And
as the final boss. Yeah.
so small Easter egg, and I sent it to you guys in the group chat, but like there is a snippet of Jey Uso's hair back being red. Now, I don't know if that's just a hype. That's just a you know one off, or if like it really wasn't meant for anything, because he did throw on the blue Amafalo necklace at that Fanatic show or whatever. And so, like, do you think that the fact that he wore that blue necklace thing, like, do you think there's anything to that, or do you think that was just a stab at Solo?
You know, that could definitely be like another level of foreshadowing. Um,
What if he
one,
puts the blue thing on Roman?
you know, so I don't know if there's any meanings to the colors of the Ulafala. Um, but what I can say is that it could just be, Jay trolling. What, it was a dark,
It's
match. It could just be Jay trolling. It could be, Jay adding another layer to his characters as main event Jay Uso, um, or it could be foreshadowing. And it
right.
could just be
And well,
sort
that's
of,
the thing
you
is
know,
that if because Roman supposedly is supposed to move on Raw when Netflix renews in January, supposedly. But the problem is that leaves us with 3 months of what are we going to do with Roman and the Bloodline, right? So then, like, it has to have a conclusion per se, right? And so I
mm,
think So because they want Roman on Raw because they want that top tier on there, and I think honestly, if he goes, he wins the championship on Raw. Like that is my, we'll call it a guess.
Right.
But it because because the draw that Roman Reigns has, anything short of champion is not going to hit the mark, right? Because
Yeah.
I see, let's okay, actually, you know what? Let's say Gunther holds it till WrestleMania, right? What if Roman and Gunther face off WrestleMania 42 and Roman wins? That way it gives Gunther a long run, but he's no match for the original Tribal Chief.
Mm,
You know,
I could
because I
see.
don't
I
see
could see
Gunther
that.
having a short. I don't see Gunther having a short-ish title reign. I
Right.
don't think he's gonna touch what he did as IC title, but you know, that's just my pipe dream. That's just my thought process. Thinking long term. I mean, what do you think long term as far as like Judgment Day Bloodline? I mean, we'll finish up here because we're already at like an hour and change. But just what do you think the longevity is of Judgment Day and Bloodline?
So I see the bloodline continuing through WrestleMania and probably ending on the short term, probably around WrestleMania. Um, we've got this real civil war that's happening. Um, so, yeah, as far as the ins and out of that, I do see The Rock coming back. I do see Roman versus The Rock. Um, I don't know if it'll be for a championship, but I do see that happening. I do see Cody and The Rock happening, and maybe that's how Cody drops his title um, to The Rock with The Rock's bloodline. Um, yeah. When it comes to the Judgment Day, it's kind of mid for me. I see Balor and potentially JD McDonough leaving, and then Liv and Dominic and Carlito, crazy enough, Carlito, uh, recruiting other people for the Judgment Day. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I think the Judgment Day will continue to evolve and have rotating members and just being this entity, kind of like Bullet Club.
Right. I mean, Bullet Club's like freaking so deep in.
Everybody ran through Bullet Club. Um, so I kind of see Judgment Day a little bit like that, but as far as the long term, uh, I don't. I think if anything, the next people to leave Judgment Day will be Balor and JD McDonough, and more so Balor. And Balor might get kicked out. And then that way we can eventually get the WWE's Bullet Club, because maybe AJ Styles goes to a part time next year and then retires. That way we get kind of like OG Bullet Club, with Balor, Good Brothers, Tamatonga, and Toalonga, Tongaloa. Maybe we get that, maybe not.
This is all pure fantasy booking. I mean,
Right. Yeah. So
there's so
yeah,
many possibilities and so
yeah,
many twists and turns at this point, you know. But that's why we love WWE, man, because you know sometimes the fans influence the product, sometimes the product influences the fans. So I think that and again, I've said this a million times, I'm enjoying the Paul Levesque era of WWE. We're definitely getting more creative direction, and you know, I I look forward because that's where we're going. And I think Triple H has the mindset of a wrestler first and a CEO, whatever, secondary, right? Because he's been
Right.
in the business for freaking 20, 30 years, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, so, but, we'll put a pin in this. We'll see what happens on Raw and SmackDown this week. Hopefully, assume Tim will be back to pontificate more pipelines and storylines and all that jazz. So we will see you guys next week. This is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.